So with just over 1 month to go until the new championship season kicks off, I thought for today's video we'd go through each championship club and all of their transfer activity so far, talk about the sides who are currently winning the window and some of the sides who definitely need to pull their finger out and start doing a bit more business. If you go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to drop a like, leave in the comments down below as well what's your current stance and where your club is in the transfer market. But without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out with Birmingham, and I think it's safe to say that out of every championship club, they have had by far and away the most exciting window so far. Over the last few days especially, where they've started to get these deals over the line, I think it's a very exciting time to be a Birmingham fan right now. Obviously, the recent additions of Furuhashi and Fujimoto especially, we've spoken about Damari Gray on the channel quite a bit, Asai Samuel as well, another brilliant pickup on a free transfer. Phil Newman, someone who I think has perhaps gone a little bit under the radar in terms of Birmingham's overall transfer business, because this was a pre-contract agreement that was made back in January, but for championship standards I think he'll be an excellent addition to that blue squad next season as well. We still expect them to be busy between now and the end of the window as well. They will be continuing to add to their squad. They've been fairly diverse in the business that they've been doing as well, picking up players at different age profiles who are going to come in and offer different things. They've not been shy to spend a bit of money, but have been savvy using the free agents market, also the loan market as well, to bring in the likes of Beadle and Tommy Doyle. Overall, it's just been a brilliant window from Birmingham so far, hasn't it? And you can definitely see why a lot of people are tipping them to be in and amongst the promotion pack next season. In terms of Blackburn Rovers, been a bit of a quieter window up until this point, but they have made a couple of additions with Tavares and Denev both coming in. We expect a bit more movement from Blackburn over these next few weeks, starting to be linked with a few more players at the moment. The biggest frustration from a Blackburn perspective will probably be some of the players that they've lost. They did offer new contracts to Danny Barr, Andy Weimann and Tyree Stolen, but all three of them rejected those deals in favour of moving elsewhere. Obviously, we've seen both Danny Barr and Weimann signing for Derby. Still don't know where Dolan's going, but he will be leaving Blackburn regardless. Still quite a bit of work to do on that squad, but one thing I'd keep in mind for Blackburn is they took their time last summer and in the end, I thought made some decent signings. So, yeah, not ruling Blackburn out from this window. Still got quite a while to go. Bristol City have been fairly busy up until this point. They've got 4 new additions. I suppose Hirakawa was there last season. That one's just been made permanent. The biggest deal, though, is for Emil Rees. At least that's the one that's caught my eye the most of Bristol City's transfer business so far this summer. Coming in on a free transfer from Preston, Bristol City have fended off quite a bit of transfer interest to get that deal over the line as well. There were a few championship clubs who were sniffing around Rees, and speaking as a Preston fan, he is that sort of player that will frustrate you at times, but equally will have those purple patches where he'll score 5 or 6 goals in 3 or 4 matches or something like that. A very streaky striker, but I think will be good for double figures next season in the Championship, provided he stays fit and plays regularly. We've seen Charlton being fairly proactive in the window up until this point. I think that's a good thing, obviously, still with plenty to do between now and the start of the season to get that squad up to shape. But of the additions that they have made so far, I quite like the look of a few of them. Thomas Kaminski, I think, is a very nice pickup in goal. Not coming off the back of the best season at Luton, but I'd still have him down as a very competent Championship goalkeeper, especially if he can rediscover the form that he showed a few years ago. Bell's also coming from Luton as well. Sonny Carey, not sure how much he's going to play next season. I'd imagine he'd be coming in as a sort of impact sub, maybe, sort of role. I'm not sure if he's going to be starting week in, week out. And Tanto Alafe is the one that does intrigue me going forward. Someone who I think will cause issues for some Championship defences next season. Whether or not he'll be good enough to hit double figures, let's say, in the Championship next season, I'm not so sure. But in terms of the overall package of what he could bring to that Charlton side, I think he adds quite a bit. Biggest negative or frustration from a Charlton point of view probably will be losing Thierry Small on a free, but we'll come to speaking about him later. From a Coventry perspective, they've been quite proactive in strengthening their fullback department, with Angel Brau coming in and Kane Kessler-Hayden, strengthening their options on both sides there. Really like the addition of Kane Kessler-Hayden, especially for the money that Coventry have paid there. I saw him firsthand at North End last season and how good he will be in the Championship. In terms of rumours, things have gone pretty quiet on the Coventry front recently. Since that Kessler-Hayden deal was agreed, not really seen many links from Coventry, but I'm sure they've still got a bit of business to do between now and the end of the window. Derby County have definitely utilised the free agent market to their advantage up until this point, with both Andy Weimann and Danny Bart coming in on frees from Derby. They've got O'Donnell coming in from Blackpool on the free as well. They have spent some money on Carlton Morris, which I think is a nice pickup from Luton. I think he is a John Eustace sort of striker. Once again, and this is applicable to every Luton player that's coming back to the Championship, not coming off the back of his finest season, but I do still think there is a good, very, very good player in there, and only 29 years old as well, is at a good age. For Derby, their most lucrative deal looks like it's going to be for Patrick Agyman. That deal is in the works at the moment. Very excited to see a potential partnership next season of him and Carlton Morris. I think that immediately improves on the options that Derby were working with last season up front. Hull City are one of the biggest Championship clubs with a massive question mark over them right now because they've been slapped with this transfer embargo by the EFL. We're probably not going to see a great deal of movement for them over these next few weeks until that embargo situation is sorted, obviously. We do know from Hull's side that they will be appealing that, but that will no doubt be a bit of a lengthy process. So for the time being, Hull won't be able to spend any transfer fees on players. There's even some registration issues over these two signings here, obviously, who they've already gone ahead and spent transfer fees on. Could also be the case that in order to improve the finances there, we could see a few sales over these next few weeks as well in terms of some of their more saleable assets, but more on that on the transfer rumour roundup when we know about it. Things with Ipswich Town have been surprisingly quiet up until this point, with David Button being the only incoming so far. He's coming on a free transfer and will be going in as a backup goalkeeper, obviously. The big sale was Liam Delap, Chelsea triggering his release clause. We've known for months now that he wouldn't be sticking around anyway. To be fair, that squad as it is right now is still very good for Championship standards, but I'd still expect a bit of movement between now and the end of the window, maybe even a few more outgoings, but certainly a few more ingoings at Ipswich you'd expect. Speaking of things being unbelievably quiet though, that's certainly been the case at Leicester City. No new arrivals for Leicester as of recording. They're still in the process of hiring their next manager as well. It does feel like of the parachute teams coming down from the Premier League, Leicester definitely are playing catch-up at the moment with the likes of Ipswich and Southampton, not just from their recruitment point of view, the fact that they're still looking for a manager. They've got an impending point deduction coming from the EFL, a few sanctions that could follow on the back of that. A few departures, obviously. Everson's gone on the free, Danny Ward as well. Jamie Vardy, the big one, still looking for his next club, but there's still a core of players there, which is definitely good enough to fight for promotion. It's just a question of how hard with sanctions is the EFL going to come down on Leicester for this upcoming season. Middlesbrough, another club that has been surprisingly quiet in the transfer market up until this point. There have been quite a few rumours regarding them, but nothing too concrete over the last few weeks, obviously. Josh Coburn going out to Millwall for quite a sizable figure. It's probably the biggest deal that we've seen there at Borough so far. You've also got Rav van den Berg, who's been linked with a move to the Premier League at the moment, Hayden Hackney as well. So we could see some more high-profile outgoings from Middlesbrough, and they're likely going to have quite a bit to spend because of that, but that could all come later in the window. Speaking of Josh Coburn, he is Millwall's biggest deal up until this point. Very excited to see how he gets on there, obviously. Spent last season out on loan at the Den. Millwall fans didn't actually get to see a great deal of him because of how many injuries he picked up, but if he can stay fully fit, I think there is a good player in there. Only 22 years old. Alex Neil clearly has faith in him to develop him into something. But yeah, it is quite a big fee they've paid there, with add-ons included. Norwich City, I actually quite like the look of their business so far this summer. I think they've been fairly savvy in the free agent market so far. Certainly picking up Harry Darling on a free, I think, is a really nice addition. Jakov Medic coming in to improve that back line as well. Obviously that was badly needed. They've improved their goalkeeping department as well, obviously with Angus Gunn going out. Jacob Wright on a permanent basis, I think he's another good deal for Norwich as well, considering the money that they've paid for him, and it looks like a big deal is in the works for Kvistgarden coming in as well. Now we do expect a few high profile outgoings from Norwich between now and the end of the window. I would be surprised if Josh Sargent, Borja Signs are still there. We probably are going to get some more movement on that over these next few weeks. But in terms of the ins at Norwich at the moment, I think that squad's looking quite competitive, especially with a manager like Liam Manning there next season. They definitely could be back in the hunt for the top 6. For Oxford United, it's Brian de Keersmaker coming in as their record transfer, actually. The only bit of business that they've done so far, but a really nice looking signing from Oxford. If you remember back to last summer, Oxford were one of the busiest clubs in the Championship with how proactive they needed to be last summer to get their squad up to Championship standards. I think what Gary Rowett is working with now is a solid group of players that he just needs to look to tweak here and there, try to gradually improve the strength of that starting 11. And Oxford could be looking competitive for next season. Still think that they are a bit light going forward. That's definitely something that will need to be addressed between now and the end of the window. But like the look of this edition here, they did beat some clubs to his signature as well, which is worth pointing out. Ruben Rodriguez, probably the biggest departure, but I think they can live without him. For Portsmouth, they've had Sedgwick coming in, but other than that, it's all been fairly quiet for Pompey up until this point. I definitely expect a bit more movement from them between now and the end of the window. Rumours-wise, I've not seen a great deal from Pompey over these last few weeks either. It feels like we've not really discussed them much on the channel recently because I've not seen that much transfer news with them, but hopefully for their sake, the gears get in motion over these next few weeks and we get a bit more movement there because as things stand, it has been pretty quiet from the outside looking in. Speaking of where it's not been quiet though, Preston North End, we've been one of the most proactive clubs in the transfer market so far, and honestly, we needed to be. Even with all these additions here, there's still a lot of work to do for Paul Heckingbottom's side, but we were quite quick to snatch up all of these free agents. Obviously, Jordan Thompson coming in as a Ryan Ledson replacement, Dan Iverson coming in as a Freddie Woodman replacement, Paul Valentin coming in as another option on that right hand side. Probably the best of those free transfers, maybe you could argue Iverson, but I think for future sell-on value, Thierry Small gives us something that we've been badly lacking recently. Someone with the ability to take people on in those 1v1 situations, someone who's at a really good age profile as well. We can look to develop and potentially sell on for a profit in the future. That one just ticks so many boxes, and the fact that North End fended off a bit of Championship interest to get that deal over the line as well, yeah, I think is really good. Also, the same for a Fire as well. Really like the look of this edition. Did really well while out on loan with Blackpool last season in League One. We've spent a fair bit of money on him, around about 1.5 million, but for what he'll give to that back line, inject a bit of pace into it, once again, a much needed addition. The transfer probably with the most question marks over is for Dan Jebison, because he's coming off the back of quite a poor loan spell with Watford in the Championship last season, but he knows Heckingbottom, and I don't think that, you know, we're going to be completely hanging our hat on Jebison as our main number 9 next season. There's still work to do for North End in the transfer market. I'd expect we are going to spend a fair bit of money on a new number 9 after losing Emil Rees on a free transfer. But as things stand, I think things are slowly taking shape for North End. Certainly from a defensive point of view, I think we are looking much stronger for next season. We just need to go out and get a few more options in for that final third, obviously. Some pretty high-profile departures, but of the players we've signed so far, I think we've done a pretty good job at replacing the majority of these players, and honestly, I think we've struck upgrades in a number of areas as well. I have to be honest, I really like the look of some of QPR's transfer business so far this summer, and Bengaluru coming in from Reading, I think is a really sensible addition. Great age, got him on a free transfer, but the one that everyone's talking about right now is Kwame Poku, and for good reason. It felt like pretty much every Championship club was offering Poku some sort of deal. He had the option to go pretty much anywhere he wanted, as well as some clubs in Europe, Rangers linked as well, but in the end he has ended up at QPR. I think the thought of that forward line next season at QPR, if they keep Karamoka Dembele fit, Poku fit, keep Chair at the club, the combinations and link-up play between those three, yeah, is a very exciting thought. No major outgoings for QPR either. Probably Kenneth Pal leaving is the biggest one so far. They have had interest in Jonathan Varane, but have rejected offers for him and want to keep him at the club. So yeah, QPR definitely could be a bit of a dark horse for next season, maybe. Things have been fairly quiet at Sheffield United up until this point. Tyler Binden coming in from Nottingham Forest on a loan deal, the latest bit of business that they've done. We expect probably a few more outgoings between now and the start of the season. That was started the other day with Vinny Souza selling for Wolfsburg. You've obviously still got Gus Hamer, who's attracting a lot of interest. The links with Cooper as well aren't going away, but I'd still fancy him to be a Sheffield United player next season. I think this pre-season will all be about Ruben Selles learning the squad, which direction he wants to go in, who's got a future under him, and who the club are looking to cash in. I do expect Sheffield United to be considerably more busy in these next few weeks than they have been recently. Now, the situation at Sheffield Wednesday has been well discussed on the channel, and understandably so. It's been incredibly quiet from an incomings point of view at Sheffield Wednesday, with them currently under the embargo, having all the financial issues that they're having at this point in time. We're not expecting any transfer activity in terms of players signing for Sheffield Wednesday until probably the end of the window, if I'm being honest with you. I think when Wednesday are potentially looking up to sweep up some of their free agents who still haven't got a club. The outgoings is where things could get really messy for Wednesday over these coming weeks. Obviously, with players, some of them at least, not being paid on time, do have the option to hand in their notice. The players that are still under contract at the club and have been paid, I think Sheffield Wednesday will be looking to sell some of those in order to generate funds. It's a very sad situation at Sheffield Wednesday, but, you know, for a sport like this that's as brutal as this, there definitely are going to be some championship clubs looking to take advantage of this situation and trying to sign a few Wednesday players on the cheap, I'd imagine. You just hope that in the long run they'll be alright and a sale of the club is made, but at this point I'm not sure how likely that looks. In terms of Southampton, it's been a fairly quiet transfer window up until this point. They got that deal over the line for Joshua Kwashi fairly early on in the transfer window, and since then haven't had any new arrivals. Looks like there will be a bit more movement though from Southampton over these next few days. Obviously, United States striker Damon Downs is the one that we've been speaking about on the channel in recent weeks. We expect that deal to go through in these next few days. That'll give them a new number 9 for next season. Probably still going to have a few more outgoings as well between now and the start of the season, but let's wait and see with Southampton. I quite like the look of a few of the Stoke City additions so far, you know. The Maxim Televerov signing, I think, is a really good one. I think he'll suit a club like Stoke down to the ground. Really impressed that they've managed to get that deal over the line. I thought he looked like a really competent defender during the second half of last season with Plymouth. Sorba Thomas, a transfer that very well could go either way, to be honest with you. He's been very hot and cold over these last few years. If you can get him back to those levels where, you know, when he first initially signed for Huddersfield, and he was absolutely brilliant from set-piece situations and pinging the ball in from those wide areas. You know, if you can get his head properly screwed on, you've got potentially a very good player on your hands there. If not, yeah, he can sort of drift in and out of games, can't he? But a manager like Mark Robins, how good of a man manager he is, maybe you'd expect him to get a player like Sorba Thomas on side for next season. Mababa coming in from Man City on loan as well, bit of an unknown quantity at this level, but has scored for fun at youth level. I have to admit though, Swansea are one of the clubs that I'm most excited about going into next season, purely just judging them off their transfer activity during this window so far. And we still expect more movement from Swansea between now and the start of the season as well. Really impressed with the Ethan Galbraith capture. They managed to fend off quite a bit of interest from other clubs to get that deal over the line. I think that's a real nice addition. Cameron Burgess on a free transfer I think is an absolutely excellent pickup as well. And who said, listen, he's an unknown quantity in the Championship, but Swansea have spent quite a bit of money on him, so clearly have faith that he could come good as well. Obviously, the major loss from this Swansea side from last season is Harry Darling, but it feels like they've already covered that loss with the pickup of Burgess. So all in all, I think a very good transfer window from Swansea so far. Going off some of the players that Watford have been linked with over these last few days, it looks like they're going to be a club quite active over these next few weeks. We expect them maybe to start spending a bit more money. Obviously, Vivaldo Semedo coming in the other day from Udinese, and then they acted quite swiftly early on in the window to get these 3 deals over the line. For Hector Cipriano especially, I think that's a really nice addition on a free from Peterborough. Hard to judge Watford's window up until this point though, because how many of these players are immediately going to go into the starting 11, I'm not so sure. I think, like I say, they're going to be more busy over these next few weeks. Things have been fairly quiet from a West Brom front up until this point, with Nat Phillips being their only addition. Once again, we expect them to get things going and get the ball rolling a little bit more over these next few weeks. They are being linked with a few players at the moment. We've spoke about them quite a bit over the weekend. If you didn't see either of the last 2 transfer videos as a West Brom fan, make sure to go ahead and check those out. Losing a few players on frees, obviously Semi Ajayi's gone to Hull, Grady Dangana we knew about for quite some time, and John Swift as well. I do like that addition of Nat Phillips, but there's still more work to do there, I think it's safe to say. And then the last club we have to speak about on today's video is Wrexham, and To be honest, I think given all the ridiculous players that Wrexham were being linked with at the start of the window, that I think were always very unrealistic, it's been a little bit maybe underwhelming so far, Wrexham's transfer activity, only getting 2 deals over the line so far for Ryan Hardy and Danny Ward. Compared to the 2 sides they've been promoted alongside, Charlton and Birmingham, Wrexham, surprisingly, have been the least active of those clubs. Really like the addition of Ryan Hardy though. They got him for a really good transfer fee. He's someone who will, I think, score double figures in the Championship next season if he gets regular minutes in that Wrexham squad. Ward, I'm not massive on, but if he's coming in as a backup goalkeeper on a decent wage, I don't mind too much. I think he'll add a bit of experience to that dressing room. Other than that, though, I still think there's a hell of a lot to do with this Wrexham squad to make it competitive for next season. We've already seen a fair few outgoings. I wouldn't be surprised if there's still more players that Wrexham are looking to shift off the books in order to bring in some new players. Looks like Lewis O'Brien could be the next man going in at Wrexham. But yeah, from front to back, I still feel like Wrexham have got a lot to do. But there's still time to do that. But guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and make sure to get your thoughts in the comments down below. What have you made of your club's transfer activity up until this point? If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to stick around and subscribe. But I'll see you all in the next one.